Welcome to the heart of the Motor City. Have you ever wondered how Detroit, once a thriving industrial metropolis, turned into a symbol of urban decay? Let's take a step back in time, to the early beginnings of Detroit, a city that was destined to become the world's automotive capital. Detroit's humble beginnings can be traced back to the early 17th century, when French explorers first set foot on its land. They saw potential in this area and established a settlement, naming it Dtroit, meaning strait in French, a nod to its strategic location on the Detroit River. As centuries rolled by, Detroit grew in size and stature, and by the late 19th century, it had become a bustling industrial hub. Its proximity to iron ore and coal resources, along with its strategic location on the Great Lakes, made it an ideal spot for manufacturing. But Detroit's real claim to fame began in the early 20th century, with the birth of the automobile industry. The city was home to visionaries like Henry Ford, who revolutionized the industry with his Model T and the assembly line production method. Detroit quickly became the heart of the American auto industry, earning the moniker Motor City. The city's economy boomed. By the 1950s, Detroit was the fourth largest city in the United States. It was a city of innovation and prosperity, a beacon of the American dream. Its streets were lined with grand buildings and bustling factories, its skyline a testament to its economic might. Yet, behind this facade of prosperity, there were signs of the challenges to come. The city's dependence on the auto industry would prove to be its Achilles heel. As the industry faced competition from overseas, jobs began to disappear, and the city's fortunes started to dwindle. But that's a story for another time. Detroit, a city once synonymous with innovation and prosperity, was on top of the world. So, what went wrong? Let's continue this journey to find out. The fall of Detroit wasn't an overnight event. It was a slow, painful process. Imagine a city, once a beacon of progress and prosperity, gradually succumbing to the weight of economic decline, racial tensions, and a mass exodus of its inhabitants. This was the harsh reality of Detroit, the Motor City. Let's start with the collapse of the auto industry. Detroit was the heart of America's automobile production, the city that put the world on wheels. General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, the so-called Big Three, were its lifeblood. But as overseas competition began to rise in the 70s and 80s, these giants started to falter. Factories were shuttered, jobs were lost, and a city that had once been the embodiment of the American dream began to falter. Next, we turn to the racial tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface. The 60s were a turbulent period across America, and Detroit was no exception. In the summer of 1967, these tensions erupted into what is now known as the Detroit riots. For 5 days, the city was in chaos. The riots left a deep scar on the city, both physically and emotionally, driving a wedge between its communities that would take decades to heal. Finally, we reach the exodus. As the city's problems mounted, many residents chose to leave, seeking better opportunities in the suburbs or elsewhere. This exodus further exacerbated the city's decline. With fewer taxpayers to support its infrastructure and services, Detroit found itself spiraling into a cycle of urban decay and rising crime rates. These were the factors that conspired to bring down Detroit. Each one, like a blow to the city's very foundation, gradually chipped away at its vitality and spirit. The result was a city in economic decline, its streets a testament to its former glory. The once thriving Motor City was now a shadow of its former self, a city in ruins. But was it the end for Detroit? In 2013, Detroit made headlines again, but for all the wrong reasons. Suddenly, the city that was once the symbol of American industrial might found itself mired in the largest municipal bankruptcy in U.S. history. The Motor City, once the heart of America's automotive industry, had its engines seized up by a staggering $18 billion in debt. Why did this happen? Well, it was a perfect storm of sorts, a lethal cocktail of dwindling population, declining tax revenues, and mounting pension obligations. The city had been bleeding red ink for years, and by 2013, the situation was unsustainable. Detroit's bankruptcy filing was not just a financial disaster, it was a human one too. The city's services, already stretched thin, were cut to the bone. Police stations closed, streetlights went dark, and parks were left to grow wild. The city's residents, already grappling with the highest poverty rate among major American cities, found themselves with even less support. But perhaps the most wrenching impact of the bankruptcy was felt by the city's retired workers. You see, As part of the bankruptcy settlement, pension benefits were significantly reduced. These were benefits that hardworking Detroiters had earned, benefits they were counting on to see them through their golden years. Suddenly they found themselves facing an uncertain future, and yet despite all of this, there was a sense of resilience, a feeling that this was not the end, but rather a painful new beginning. Detroiters are nothing if not tough, and they face this crisis with the same determination that built the city in the first place. The city was at rock bottom, but as the saying goes, when you hit rock bottom, the only way is up. And so, Dtroit began to climb, one step at a time. But that's a story for the next time. For now, let's take a moment to remember the lessons of the bankruptcy, lessons about the cost of neglect, the importance of fiscal responsibility, and the indomitable spirit of a city and its people. In the face of adversity, Dtroit began to rise from the ashes. After the dust of bankruptcy had settled, the city found itself with a rare opportunity, a blank slate, a chance to start anew, to rewrite its own story. The first step was to create a restructuring plan, a roadmap for the city's financial health. It wasn't an easy task, but it was a necessary one. The plan focused on reducing the city's overwhelming debt, improving essential services, and investing in key areas to stimulate economic growth. The auto industry, the lifeblood of the city, also started to show signs of life. Companies like General Motors, Ford and Chrysler began to stabilize, bringing back jobs and injecting much-needed capital into the city. Their resurgence was a testament to the resilience of the industry that once made Detroit the Motor City. But the recovery wasn't just about big corporations. Small businesses and entrepreneurs also played a pivotal role. From trendy coffee shops to tech startups, new businesses started popping up across the city, adding vibrancy and diversity to its economy. Dtroit also saw an influx of new residents. Many were drawn to the city's affordable living and the opportunity to be part of its renaissance. Their arrival brought a fresh wave of energy and creativity, contributing to the city's cultural and economic revival. Throughout this recovery, the determination of Detroit's residents shone brightly. They showed that Dtroit was more than its past struggles. It was a city of fighters, a city of resilience. They embraced their city, flaws and all, and worked tirelessly to make it better. The recovery of Dtroit is a story of resilience and determination. It's a story of a city refusing to be defined by its past, and instead carving out a future full of hope and potential. Dtroit was on the path to recovery, but what does the future hold? Detroit's story is a cautionary tale, but also one of hope and resilience. Reflecting on its journey, we can draw some priceless lessons from the rise, fall, and recovery of this iconic city. The Motor City's rise to prosperity was fueled by the automobile industry, but its reliance on this one sector proved to be a double-edged sword. As the industry faced challenges, so too did Dtroit. The lesson here is the importance of economic diversification. Relying on one industry or market can lead to prosperity in the short term, but vulnerability in the long term. This is a lesson that Dtroit has taken to heart in its recovery efforts, as it now strives to diversify its economy, investing in technology, healthcare, and renewable energy sectors, among others. Another lesson is the power of investment in people. Detroit's downfall was marked by population decline, as people left in search of better opportunities. To counter this, the city is now focusing on creating a more livable environment for its residents. Efforts to improve education, housing, and public services are underway, in the belief that a city is only as strong as its people. But perhaps the most important lesson from Detroit's story is that of resilience. Despite going through one of the most significant municipal bankruptcies in U.S. history, Dtroit refused to give up. It faced its challenges head-on, making tough decisions to put itself on the path to recovery. This resilience is a testament to the spirit of the city and its people. Looking to the future, there is hope for a brighter tomorrow for Dtroit. Its recovery is still a work in progress, but the city is moving in the right direction. The journey hasn't been easy, and there will undoubtedly be more challenges ahead, but if Detroit's history has taught us anything, it's that this is a city that knows how to bounce back. Detroit's story is a testament to the resilience of its people, and a reminder that even in the face of adversity, recovery is possible.